Well, I think you're right. The last decade's been a phenomenal growth story for self-managed super funds. We have just passed through the million member mark, and I guess who would have thought back in 2014 that we would, or sorry, back 10 years ago in 2004 that we would have had over 1 million members of self-managed super funds. So it has been a phenomenal growth story. I guess there's a number of drivers that we see behind the growth of the sector. Certainly, the global financial crisis, in our view, has had an impact on people's attitudes towards investing. So, individuals are now wanting more transparency in terms of the fees that they're paying, but also in terms of where their money's invested. All the things that we normally associate with a self-managed super fund. So, transparency in terms of fees and investments. I would also say technology, and we shouldn't underestimate the important role that technology has played in driving the growth of the self-managed super fund sector over the last decade. Investors have more access to information now than they've ever had before. It's much easier for individuals to engage with their superannuation and to make their own investment decisions and become self-directed. And it's not just happening here in Australia. Of course, it's a global trend that we're seeing more individuals become self-directed, and the enabler is technology. And we're seeing that play out here in Australia in the self-managed super fund market. The most effective way of taking advantage of this technology, of course, is through self-managed super funds. So access to online trading platforms and all the information that at your fingertips nowadays is certainly making it easier for people to make their own investment decisions and to have a self-managed super fund. And I think that's also one of the reasons that we're seeing younger individuals turn to self-managed super funds. There's been a significant increase in individuals under age 45 who are now setting up self-managed super funds, and I put it down to technology, enabling those individuals to commence self-managed super funds. So certainly some key drivers that we've seen over the last decade. In terms of what does the next decade look like? Well, we think we expect the growth of the self-managed super fund to be just as strong over the next decade as it has been over the last decade. Certainly those enablers that we've seen over the last decade, in our view, are just as relevant for the next 10 years. And in fact, there's some new enablers that we see as well. I think when you look at the changing aging demographics out there, just under 50% of individuals, or 50% of the superannuation assets today are owned by individuals who will retire sometime over the next decade. And we know that a significant proportion of the population do have some controlling aspirations. They have desires to take control of their investment decisions, and those aspirations become stronger as they get older and their superannuation balances grow. So if you put those things together, we expect that over the next decade, the baby boomers, a significant number of individuals moving into retirement, will migrate towards a self-managed super fund. So, and hence the reason we see that the sector growing just as strongly over the next decade as what it has over the past decade. Yeah, very much so, and there has been one of the statistics that's caused a lot of people by surprise, I think, is the significant increase in younger individuals turning to self-managed super funds, because we have historically considered self-managed super funds to be for those that are getting close to retirement, and I think certainly that will continue. We'll certainly see a number of, as I just said, people retiring over the next decade, and they will be moving into self-managed super funds, but we will also see younger individuals turn into self-managed super funds. We've seen it over the last few years. It is part of a global trend, across the globe. We're seeing younger individuals now become self-directed, and I think that's got to do with the technology which is enabling that. So, and that's we're seeing that play out here in the self-managed super fund industry in Australia. Yeah, that's right. In a self-managed super fund, it's quite a seamless transition from the accumulation phase to the pension phase. Now, in some larger funds, not all funds, in some of the larger funds, they can treat that as a CGT disposal. So when you are moving from the accumulation to the pension phase, some funds actually treat that as a CGT event. In other words, they'll take out capital gains tax before deciding on what the balance is to start the pension. Now, of course, you don't need to do that. It's just the way their systems work. In the self-managed super fund sector, it is quite a seamless transition. So you can move from the accumulation phase to the pension phase, and away you go. There's no need to be selling assets and things like that. So, those reasons, as well as the fact that as people get closer to retirement, they take a closer interest in their superannuation, because at that point, they're larger, as I said earlier, their aspirations to take control of their decisions tends to grow as they get older and their superannuation balances grow. Well, look, I would say so. I think small business owners are very used to making decisions, very used to having control over their decisions and so forth. So they are well suited to a self-super fund. Of course, in addition to that, they've got the tax benefits that flow from having their business premises and so forth as part of their superannuation or part of their self-managed super fund. That's one of the reasons that we see quite a significant portion of superannuation assets in commercial property. So certainly, there are many reasons that self-employed or small business owners are certainly drawn to self-managed super funds.